Welcome to our first Leaders in Housing Counseling call for 2018. Promising to be a challenging but also interesting, exciting year. We're calling from our usual place in Philadelphia, which is swirling with tons of snow and wind and sub-freezing weather. So hopefully some more of you are snug and warm wherever you are. But we will proceed. Both of us managed to get into the office today, and we have a full agenda for the call today. So hope the weather is, the winter's treating you well, and we have a lot to cover. So with that note, we're going to do a quick, an update on what's happening in Congress. You're probably reading about it in the paper, and it's certainly impacting our work. We also want to talk some about some of the big themes of 2018 and ones that you can help us with, and your experience in the field will be valuable to many of these things. And we're going to do the next Innovations in Housing Counseling session. We have Stephanie Steen from the Brighton Center in Kentucky talking about a creative program they have on workforce financial wellness workshops that they're doing with major employers in their area. It's a very promising model. We had her really almost 2 years ago when they were really just starting the program. Now they've got some experience under their belt. We thought it'd be really good to come back and see what lessons were learned. And then at the very end, we'll make a plug for joining NHRC. And I just really want to say thank you so much to the many groups the new groups that joined this year. And we had a very strong renewal this year. So we had a very good membership year this year. Matthew and I really deeply appreciate this. It's really a kind of valuable support that we, treasure. So with that note, Matthew, let's move to what's happening with federal funding.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but the folks have probably heard that just prior to the holidays, Congress once again passed a continuing resolution. So this one keeps the government funded through January 19th. And the sticking point folks probably know by now is these budget caps. So unless they reach an agreement because of a deal they made going back a number of years now, there would be automatic reductions triggered for both domestic and defense spending. So Republicans and Democrats together are trying to negotiate and come to an agreement on lifting those caps for both defense and domestic spending. The Republican, the GOP, obviously want to raise defense spending. Some of them would prefer not to raise domestic spending at all. Democrats are trying to insist on a dollar-for-dollar increase for domestic programs. But then there's a few other issues complicating this negotiation, and folks have probably heard of, followed these issues as well, but things like, whether DACA is included, and that's, folks have followed the Dreamers, and whether that will be a part of a spending agreement. There's all these kind of side issues that are making the negotiations even more complicated, or whether they just do the spending on itself and tackle these other issues separately. So there was a meeting yesterday between kind of the four big congressional folks, so Pelosi and Speaker Ryan in the House side, and Leader McConnell and Chuck Schumer on the Senate side, along with Mick Mulvaney, the White House Budget Director, and the White House, Mark Short, the White House Legislative Affairs Director. They all sat down on the Hill and primarily were trying to work out, this budget cap agreement. The Democrats have kind of said from that meeting that they had a commitment to, I believe they had said that they had a commitment to a dollar-for-dollar raise, but I might be misremembered that. I read that early this morning. But they're making some progress. The question is, when they reach an agreement, the wide assumption is that there'll be increase for domestic spending. So all these bills that have been written in both the House and the Senate, they'll be able to go back to and start, plussing up certain programs. That's obviously going to be critical for us because folks will remember that housing counseling funding was down both the House and Senate side was down from FY 2017. We did have a good talk yesterday with Congressman Dent, who folks will know has been really our biggest champion on the Hill, and is a subcommittee chairman on appropriations, so certainly has some clout. Just, he essentially said, and we had spoken with his office early this week, that we're in a holding pattern until we get until there's a budget agreement and we know how much money we have to spend with. Then they send it out to the subcommittees, and that's when we start, working on trying to plus up housing counseling to get it at least back to the 55, if not potentially a little bit higher, if at all possible. So that's kind of where we are. There's some hope that there'll be. I think the expectation is that there'll be a budget agreement before the 19th when the current CR expires, but they will have to do another CR to give all the subcommittees time to write their bills and plus up all the accounts that they're going to do. So, the end is seemingly near, although, obviously any number of wrinkles could come along. But next step is getting a budget agreement, and then we'll have a much better idea of where we are. We'll work closely with Congressman Dent's staff and others to make sure that we can get housing counseling plus back up to at least the 2017 level. So that was my long-winded explanation. Bruce, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you completely got it. Very encouraged that we talking with Charlie Dent, is very high on his mind. Alan Jennings at Lehigh Community Action Council in Allentown, Pennsylvania, has helped really make this relationship work, and we direct access to one of the key people, and he's there. There's a fair amount of support, and I know that the groups in Maine reached out to Susan Collins' staff before the holidays. Again, that's very helpful as well. And those kind of conversations, if you have people in approps, at this point it's really a leadership conversation, but members of the approps committee can certainly tell leadership that this is one of their priorities. So that gives us good. Okay. So I thought we'd just take a minute just to talk to you about kind of some of the interesting things that we're thinking about how we could be helpful to groups in the field and tie together the work you do with bigger policy questions so that we're both adding value and also doing what would be best to serve. So one area that I think we talked about briefly on the calls, and we'll do more and going in the future, is I think that major opportunities exist at FHA, and these are in originating loans where housing counseling is really not well integrated into the process. Certainly it's servicing the loans, which many of you get to do, and which is sometimes a very frustrating process. And then, of course, the reverse mortgage, FHA insured reverse mortgages. And the reverse mortgage is key partly because that's where the fund is having the most problems and performance problems. And if we could figure out how to get people to counseling, get them to HECM counselors and maybe a broader range of tools, the issues are really around property taxes and insurance, typically, occasionally home repair. But thinking about how we could be helpful in all that. But those three prongs of the world, and we're very interested in this concept of figuring out how to pay for the counseling through the FHA process, so that there's an enduring funding mechanism. And so there's multiple conversations going on about this, and one of the things we have done is we're putting together right now a working group of practitioners in the field, housing counselors. We'll have you help us think through what would be the most valuable, and maybe also some suggestions on reforms that would make housing counseling more valuable and help people qualify, help get better modifications, and address the issues with reverse mortgage. So a number of you have responded to the emails, and thank you very much. We'll get a doodle schedule out to try to figure out time that works for a good number of people, but we've had a healthy response. Certainly there's room for one more if you're interested in getting in and you've got some experience. Really trying to tap into people who are doing the work in the field with FHA loans and have deep familiarity. And then we've asked for a meeting with senior people at FHA. That's Pam Patnod and Dana Ward and Adolfo Marzal. We met with Adolfo last summer when he was one of the early appointees at the Leaders Conference. But we really want to up this conversation into a deeper way. We think we're hearing through the grapevine that there's real interest at HUD, so this may be a real opportunity. And I know that the Coalition of HUD Housing Counseling Intermediaries has reached out to the Secretary to talk about these issues as well. So, I mean, hopefully there's a lot of outgoing energy and thought going into this area, and we can, we're hoping there'll be some opportunities to create real value there. And if you want to be part of the FHA working group, send me an email and make sure FHA is in the top, because all I do is I sort by FHA and then pull out the email addresses. All right. Next, in the past, we've done some work around disaster recovery issues. It's kind of been red flagged to me very recently that a lot of money will flow and the housing counseling is eligible, but there's a concern that we're not really in the local process positioning housing counseling in areas where you have capacity, you're doing good work, and seeing if we can't maximize the value of your work. The housing counseling experience in the Hurricane Sandy has been was large and valuable, and I think respected by many people. And then with all the other things that are happening, trying to figure out how to kind of leverage that experience with others. So if it's an area you're interested in, please shoot me an email. We'll have discussions around that and see if there's ways we can be useful. I think we talked about on a call previously about our experience with the Chicago event we put together with 9 Chicago organizations. We're launching a second one in Tampa, Florida. We'll be in early March 3rd, and we'll do some traditional media again, but I think the goal again is to really try to understand and maximize the value of social media and especially Facebook. And it's interesting, I've talked to a number of people who are kind of budding Facebook experts, and it's clear this is an area that people haven't really figured out completely, but that there's a set of tools, and we're going to keep diving in. Certainly if you've got experience you want to share with us, we would love to help build you into this process. But we will continue to learn about how to use the value of social media. It's very low cost, and it does seem to reach very closely in with people, and it was a major tool for us in Chicago, and we want to build on that. So I think an area that'll be very exciting, and I think we'll learn a lot in the next year around all this. But if you've got on your staff people who have deep understanding of this, please put them in touch with me. Then the Innovations in Housing Counseling program, we're going to continue doing more of these, and today will be one session, but there'll be more coming up, and we are hungry to get more. So if you're doing interesting stuff out in the field that's replicable by other groups that you're interested in doing a presentation on, we'll give you a platform on the leaders call, and we'll also have the ability to advertise this to the broader to lenders and foundations and things like that about showing the kinds of things that we do. This is, I think, very valuable, and I think we've gotten a lot out of some of the sessions we've done already, and we're looking for more. So please let us know. And then I think this year we're going to do a renewed effort around building support for housing counseling in the House and Senate. And given the 2018 elections coming up, we will make a special effort to reach out both to Republicans and to Democrats. This has turned out to be critical and high value for our work. One big issue that we're recognizing is that Charlie Dent, who's been a key champion of ours, is retiring, and we're trying to figure out who the next champion in APROPES will be. So that's very helpful, but we also need many more rank and file supporters and champions, and both sides of the aisle. And certainly in the Senate, we have lots of supporters, but I think we need to continue to look for those people that might be wanting to carry the banner. So those are some highlights. We're talking with Sarah Jarek about joining us for the first call in February, first Thursday in February, and talking some about what HUD's plans are and how housing counseling might connect with that. And we have plenty of other irons in the fire, so it should be a good year for the calls and the work we do. So thanks for all you all did in 2017. You guys were stellar. It was amazing how deep the support was, and we really appreciate it. I've certainly learned a lot, and we want to continue that momentum coming up. Cool. Okay, so let's move on. And so we have Stephanie Steen from the Brighton Center in Newport, Kentucky. And Stephanie has been working in the past couple of years around this idea of workshops where major employers, where a counseling agency goes to major employers and says, we can provide this service to your employees. And it's a program that gets funded by the employers, provides tremendous staff benefits, but I think is very valuable. And I think this is one that is replicable by many organizations, given the skill set that people have around financial literacy and financial wellness. So Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you, Bruce.
Good.
And thank you to everyone who has joined the call today to learn more about the innovations in housing counseling. Before we dive into the topic, I would like to take a moment just to share information about Brighton Center. And as Bruce mentioned earlier in our call today, we originally had the opportunity to present on this topic back in 2016, which in a way feels like yesterday, and in a way it feels like years ago, to basically introduce the concept of this financial wellness for employers. And today we want to come back and share all of the things that we've learned, share some best practices, and ways that we've enhanced the program since then. Next slide, please. Brighton Center's mission, you see here on the slide, to create opportunities for individuals and families to reach self-sufficiency through family support services, education, employment, and leadership. We are a United Way agency partner, as well as a HUD approved local housing counseling agency. And we recently celebrated 50 years of service in 2016. As an agency, we do serve the 8 counties in northern Kentucky, some of those being urban and some being rural. But with my department, with financial services, we not only look at serving those 8 counties, but we stretch past that and actually serve 3 counties in Indiana, Cincinnati, as well as recently over the years with the Unemployed Bridge Program, we served over 74 counties of the state of Kentucky. Next slide, please. As you can see, in fiscal year 2017, we served as an agency over 44,000 individuals through 39 different programs. We serve infants to older adults through those different services, And just to mention a few of those services with the department circles that you have in front of you. Our Brighton Recovery Center is a 100-bed facility for women dealing with substance abuse issues. We actually take our financial services continuum to the Brighton Recovery Center and work with the ladies as they are phasing out of the program. Our Community and Youth Services program or department has Homeward Bound Shelter, which is a homeless shelter for teens. Our Early Childhood Education department is a star-rated child care facility. Family Center department offers emergency assistance, rapid rehousing, and family support services around case management for individuals and families in the region. Our Workforce Development Department, and I'll skip over financial services for just a moment, but our Workforce Development Department offers multiple services, including our Center for Employment Training, which is a 3-skill building, training, and career coaching, which offers a free education for those who attend and graduate from the program. And lastly, our Northern Kentucky Scholar House is a 2-generational self-sufficiency program for single parents, families that provide affordable housing. So they receive a Section 8 voucher while they're participating in the program. There's a child care facility on site. They receive case management and support as they're going to school to complete a higher degree. Next slide, please. So that leaves us with financial services. And as I mentioned before, that is the department that I oversee. We offer a continuum under our umbrella, ranging from financial education and coaching to foreclosure prevention. This is including what we've had the opportunity to participate in with the Unemployed Bridge program or the hardest hit funds with loss mitigation as well. Our homeownership services is for pre and post homeownership, as well as a 7-hour workshop offered throughout the year that talks more in depth about being a homeowner and sustainability. We have an IDA program that ranges from a dollar-to-dollar match to a 4-to-1 match. That ranges from a person saving $25 and receiving $300 to a person saving $1,000 and receiving a $4,000 match. We have 3 VITA sites that we serve throughout the community, the counties within the Northern Kentucky area. And we include the My Free Taxes as a way to empower our families so they can add skills and feel more confident as they are working and being able to complete the tax return on their own. We are an official lending Circle partner and licensed by the Mission Asset Fund. We started this program about a year ago, and we found that that is a great benefit for some of our families that are hesitant to get into the within a financial institution. We offer the senior support, volunteer and donations, and Safety Net Alliance. We also do a senior Medicare patrol program, which is working with our seniors on a yearly basis as they have to renew their Medicare benefits. We have the retired and senior volunteer program, which is within the department. And lastly, we have our holiday drive that we offer each year in the month of December to make sure all of our families have access to resources such as food baskets as well as gifts for their families. We have a total of 18 staff in the department. However, 6 staff are specifically trained in our Ways to Wealth program. Next slide, please. Next, you'll see a little bit more about our philosophy here at the agency. We believe in self-sufficiency is taking responsibility and providing for your family. And that can be through several different focus areas, whether it's building connections or building skills or building a future. We take self-sufficiency as a journey, and we take a comprehensive approach in bundling those services that I've mentioned to make sure that we receive a deeper impact for our families who enter through any of those programs or service areas. We understand that our families have complex needs, and we have to be flexible because it's going to vary throughout their goals, whether short-term or long-term, where they may be in that self-sufficiency journey, and that, again, that from prevention to giving back to the community. We complete a self-sufficiency matrix for every individual that walks in the door as a way or a starting point to understand what their needs are for not just themselves, but for their family as a whole. Next slide, please. And now we start with the ways to wealth. Why are we on the call today? Let's talk about the main topic. Ways to wealth, again, is something that we have researched and put time and energy into for the last couple of years, but making sure that we not only had this as an idea internally, but wanting to make sure that it fit the gaps that the employers had with their employees. And we started this process, again, several years ago by working with a local college and asking them to do some research for us and reaching out to several employers, to see what would their needs be, what were they faced in with financial hardships, were they experiencing high turnover due to financial situations? Were they experiencing as I mentioned, the retention, but then were they experiencing high absenteeism? Were they seeing a decrease in productivity around finances? So Thomas More College put together this great resource for us and really diving in and understanding the needs of what the employers were looking for, as well as what the employees were faced with. Next slide, please. Some of the stresses that I'm sure it's not new to you, but some of the data that has been released recently has been, financial unhealthy workers. And this is workers that, that are not able to pay their bills on time, or that they're living paycheck to paycheck. Financial struggles impact all types of businesses, all industries, all age levels, and all salary and income levels. An assumption that I've heard, and I'm sure you have too, is that, the more money you make, the more financial healthy you are. And, that's just not the case. Many a times, the stress level just increases because there are more opportunities for spending and debt accumulation. Next slide, please. So some of the challenges that we heard was it had a lot to do with income vitality, and really looking at inconsistent income and how that creates a financial hardship for many of our families as well as employers. And this may be due to seasonal jobs or positions. It may be due to overtime, coming and going, retail jobs, and, affects both part-time and full-time workers. It makes it not only hard and difficult to stay on track, but it also makes it difficult to plan ahead for the future. Other things that they were faced with is some of these financial shocks, the unexpected expenses as life happens, and how do they prepare and think ahead for when life happens, and how long does it take to recover from a financial shock? Sometimes it was taking months for workers who were living paycheck to paycheck. The other thing that we found out with talking with employers is, and employees was that that financially stressed, it affects your health with, starting with migraines, individuals suffering from depression, lack of sleep, that's affecting the productivity while they're on the job, the constant worrying. All of that could also lead to high blood pressure. So there was definitely a connection between the physical and the financial health due to having potential increase in insurance claims, and insurance is pretty high. And how does an employer start to look at that and think of the insurance challenges a little differently and decreasing expenses? Next slide, please. So once we collected all of the information and we worked with local employers to understand what their needs were, and we worked with Thomas More College and, really tried to assess not only to make it a win-win for the employer, but the employees as well, all of this came together to support the need for a targeted financial wellness program that could help with financial well-being of their employees. We also wanted to make sure that it was comprehensive, and so it was not only educating the employee and the employers, but it was also providing resources and access to tools and other products that may be beneficial for financial hardships as well as long-term planning. We also took time to ask, how does a financial wellness or well-being program fit in or align with the company's strategic goals? Where do they want to go, and how does this fit in to what they were looking for? There's a lot of competition out there when looking for jobs, and how do you create this program to be the best program to make your employer stand out amongst the others, because this employer has a financial wellness program. So it's not just the health side of things, it's a financial wellness side of things as well. Next slide, please. So the objective of our Ways to Wealth program is basically to provide local employers the tools to help them identify the financial hardships that impact the stress level of their employees. And this is achieved through a variety of topics selected to meet the needs of your employees. We wanted to include the components of not just looking at spending or borrowing, but we wanted to look at a full financial health component, which would include, spending, saving, borrowing, and planning for the employee's future. We found that, working with the employer, this could be done with helping them to collect information, whether it's offering a paper survey or a Google survey, doing a table at lunch and just having some conversations with a few employees, working with HR to understand what the needs were when it came to the employees at that employer's location. The other side that we found was the employers were concerned about, well, how do we get participation? That's the key. Not only do they want to offer something like this, but how do they increase participation? and build awareness internally with their workforce that they were going to offer a program like this. And the employers that we've talked to and worked with, they offered incentives. They offered prizes. They looked at really selling it through the benefits package. As I mentioned before, putting their name above the other potential competition that they have out there with employers, as well as sometimes it's food. We all like to eat. Maybe it's having some food or refreshments in the early morning or in the late hours. Next slide, please. So one of the things, again, we spent time crafting the workshop topics, again, related to what we were finding is not only the needs of the employees to employers, but, what were going to be the standout things that people wanted to learn more about when faced with a financial hardship, or wanting to plan for their future, or wanting to think about their finances differently. So we came up with the topics that you see here on the screen, and we're getting ready to add an additional topic, which is how to talk to your children about money. This was something that we found more recently, that, families wanted to have more of a conversation, but how do you start that conversation? Because money is not an easy thing to talk about, but how do you start to plant the seeds so children are educated on what decisions to make as they grow and as they learn and become independent? We wanted to make sure that not only the topics had the most up-to-date information, that we saw with trends in the community and nationally and so forth, but we wanted to make sure that the topics were customized to meet the needs of the employer. They're not just lecture. They're very hands-on. We have several activities that we've built in to all the topics that you see here. So it makes it a very interactive form of learning instead of just sitting in a classroom type setting. We also wanted to, we've also created, we've had the great opportunity in the past to include this, but we created a library of books that are focused on money. So not only we can go into local companies and businesses and offer resources on the topics that you see here, but then we can also mention, additional resources such as the books that are available at their local library to help them add to not just planting the seed, but add to where they want to go, short-term and long-term. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier in the call, we were a participant in this call back in 2016, and we were hoping to launch the program, sometime the latter part of 2016. And we took a moment and, took a deep breath, and we actually delayed our launch because we wanted to make sure that not only was everything ready, by whether it was branded or, the information being up to date, but we wanted to make sure that it was professional and, really, again, making it all about the employees in our region, employers in our region. So we decided to, we wrote a grant and we received funds to hire a company that was just specifically focused on marketing. They helped us with, creating a logo. They helped us with, developing the messaging, not only for, again, the messaging about the Ways to Wealth program, but, how do employers get their employees participating as well. This person also looked at possible competitor services and what their pricing was, what they were doing, because we didn't necessarily want to duplicate. We wanted to be a little different in what we were offering. We also took a moment and we hired a local video firm. We received some additional grant money and worked with a local video firm, and we used them to help create a video, which is on our website, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But this was really important to us to help spread the word because, you know, local companies and HR directors get lots and lots of material, but how do we make our stuff stand out? How do we make that first impression go further? And so having those videos, or that video, we felt would take it to the next level. And we also asked an individual from United Way to participate in this video and to be interviewed, showing the importance as well as the support. And then we also had a local investment firm, a gentleman participated as well. Of course, as you see here, the website, that was very important to us, and making sure that it had additional information, not just with the flyer, but additional information and resources for the employers that would be searching for their financial wellness program. We took the time to brand all of the materials, copyright all of the materials, and then we did a couple of focus groups to ask for feedback. You know, what does this look like to you? Does this look inviting? Does this look like something that you would want to participate in? So we really took a lot of time. You know, we were hoping to launch this, you know, again, a couple years ago, but we wanted to make sure that we were doing it right. And then lastly, what were the measures of success? How were we going to, you know, look at the performance measures and, you know, what was the return on investment for the employer, you know, increasing the knowledge of the participants, you know, would that in fact increase the retention? Would that decrease turnover? And then looking at individually with the employees, you know, with achieving short-term and long-term goals and providing the follow-up, not only when the employees attended the workshops, but, you know, having the follow-up with each of those employees to make sure that things were being achieved. Next slide,
Stephanie,
please.
I'll just quickly mention that we just, in the chat box, sent a link with the website, and the video is also there. We unfortunately weren't able to play the video for the broadcast, but you can access that. There's a live link in the chat box I just sent to everyone.
Great, thank you. So once we were ready, and again, we took the time to put all of these bits and pieces together and figuring out what that approach looked like, we moved into implementation. We officially launched in June of this year, or actually last year, 2017, and we started with our board. We presented at a summer board meeting. We asked them to become champions, and we asked for their support to not only look at how this fits in with their own companies, but how would they possibly talk about this and, you know, reach out to a couple other companies out in the community. We had the opportunity to present at a local HR group through the Chamber of Commerce in Northern Kentucky, where we had about 30 to 35 HR professionals, department directors there, and just starting to plant the seed of not just thinking about the health wellness of their employees, but thinking past that to the full picture of financial wellness as well. We started to attend job fairs and being able to interact and learn more about what those companies currently offer, where are their gaps, you know, how many positions did they have open, you know, and really to understand what they were looking for, and then again, taking that opportunity to plant the seeds on financial wellness. We have, we started our marketing plan, working with the companies that we already know, that are familiar with our agency, whether it was corporate partners that have volunteered in some form or fashion with one of our many programs, or, maybe, companies that we go in and we offer a program called Career Connections, where we work with local employers in the region to help them find individuals that are looking for jobs. So it's kind of the flip side. So not only do we work with the employee, but we work with the employer. And, so we really met with different companies, different sizes, both on the Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati side of the Cincinnati side. In this area, and just started to getting to know them a little bit better. We worked on program materials. We created a marketing packet, which includes a folder. It has our video on a thumb drive with, again, our logo, and everything's branded. It has additional information in there from little bits and pieces of the topics that are offered, how they can fit this into their strategic planning, and how they can look at participation levels. We also worked with other staff across our agency and trained them on becoming ambassadors as well, and working with them to increase their knowledge and their confidence on being able to go out and tell others about the program. Next slide, please. So potential revenue, our plan is to increase our revenue as a department in this third quarter or first quarter of 2018 by $10,000. We hope to hire a part-time person to oversee this program, and not only providing the workshops, but really focusing on the marketing perspective as well, and that constant being out in the community and talking to local employers. A business plan has been created for sustainability and looking at 6 months, where do we need to be? At 12 months, where do we need to be? And 18 months, and so forth. We've worked with a local bank in the area here that they're interested in supporting the Ways to Wealth program and being the sponsor and possibly offering food at all of our meetings or at all of our workshops. And also looking at paying for the materials and the flyers for us. We have looked at another bank to offer, they do not currently offer financial education at this financial institution, and we have worked with them to possibly be our partner as well, to be able to take Ways to Wealth and integrate it into their business side of the bank, where, when they go out and they're working with local businesses to get the businesses banking with their employees, being able to take that approach and help us spread the word, as well as to be another support for sustainability in the long term. And for those of you on the phone that would want to look at potential partnership opportunities, we're definitely open to that as well, based on our lessons learned, as well as the best practices that we can offer. Next slide, please. And I'm happy to answer any questions about our Ways to Wealth program and what we learned over time, and share any answers of if someone's wanting to look at partnership or look at the opportunity of starting a financial wellness program.
And could you just quickly, if folks are interested in partnerships, should we have them contact you there?
Yes, please. If they're interested in partnerships with us and our Ways to Wealth program, my contact information is on the screen. And again, we would love to talk with you about the materials that we have, as well as the information that we've put together. That would be a great opportunity.
Great. And we do have a number of questions. A few people asked in kind of different ways what you charge, what the pricing structure is for employers. Could you just go a little bit into the kind of pricing side of it?
Sure. So again, at the very beginning, I mentioned we did a lot of research and talking with employers to see exactly where they were and would they pay for a service like this. So that helped us as kind of our starting point of where do we want this Ways to Wealth program to go. And then again, working with this marketing consultant helped us to dive a little deeper into what the pricing structure could look like. We came up with the pricing structure if an employer selects 4 of those topics. They could do 4 separate topics. They could do 1 topic 4 times. They could do 2 topics twice, but 4 workshops, that would be a charge of $2,000. And if they wanted to do 1 topic, that would be $750.
Great. And then relatedly, someone asked about the timeline of the presentations to employees and how long of a commitment it is. One of the things that we've learned is we have to be flexible. So with the employers that we've worked with, we've looked at doing like a lunch and learn, and I think this is what they're referring to. If not, please let me know. But, we've looked at doing a lunch and learn. We've looked at doing it at a start of a shift or a changing of shifts. Sometimes they're wanting to do like that 1 workshop, which we can do that 1 in this month, or maybe it's the series of the 4, which we can do based on what their needs are. So whether it's back to back on a weekly basis, or if they want to spread it out and do 1 per quarter, we are very flexible in the way that is crafted.
Great. And how long are the workshops?
The workshops can range from, we try to keep it around an hour. If we're doing an after shift, we can take it up to like an hour and a half. And the one thing that I would like to add is we had one employer that asked if the spouse or partner could sit in at the workshop as well. So we did expand off of that and have more of a family attend.
Great. And there were a few questions also about whether this is generally part of employee assistance programs, or if you're covering a gap that those don't cover. I'm actually not sure what employee assistance programs are, so hopefully you can answer that.
Yes, the employee assistance programs, there's different groups out there that do offer that. And one of the things that we found is many a times that there's more of just a planting of the seed or providing resources at that level where they might say, there's local financial education workshops taking place in your community, or they may offer a little bit of assistance on how do you cover from a financial hardship, or talking about a potential foreclosure. What and how ours is different is it's very, it's more in depth, and it's customized based on what the needs are of that organization or company. So we specialize in those topics that you saw before, making sure that they're up to date, making sure that staff is trained, they're prepared for presentations, to go in and actually present this information. So it's definitely at a deeper level, and with adding the hands-on activities too, makes a big difference, because not only are you sharing that information, but you are doing hands-on with that material presented and how it relates to them individually. One of the things that I didn't mention is, we also try to look at offering, a couple of our other resources within financial services, such as lending circles. So if we have an employer that has a group of employees that wants to look at this opportunity, we'll actually come on site and help them to develop this lending circle, or take our Vita site over to an employer's office, or create a My Free Tax Day with having a financial coach, or a tax coach. So we really tried to make it more in depth than just the phone call.
Great, and we got a few more questions. We'll try to get through all of these. There were a couple of kind of similar questions. One is just if you are measuring outcomes, and another is if you have plans to track behavior changes, so things like reduced stress, higher productivity, things like that.
Yes, definitely. We have a pre and a post test that is presented for each of the workshop topics. We collect that information with the participant's name. We also have them list short-term, long-term goals, and we do a follow-up with them to see how things are coming along. Also, from the standpoint of the employer, looking at a baseline, what is their hopes of what they'd like to achieve out of offering a financial wellness program, and what is the baseline that you're experiencing right now? Productivity, absenteeism, looking at retention, and working with them to kind of see how that's going in conjunction of the individual evaluation as well as follow-up.
Great. And there's a lot of crossover between these questions, so that's great that people are thinking similar things. But a few folks asked if there have been particular industries or employers that you've found more success with than others.
Good question. I would say at this time, we haven't necessarily found like a niche with a smaller company versus a larger company. We haven't found that as of yet. We have a hospital that we're working with. Actually, this first quarter, we're going to be working with them. We have a financial advisor firm that is actually participating in our program because they want to be able to take this information and then make referrals to this program, back to this program, Ways to Wealth, when they're working with their companies. So there's not really been, anything that stand out as of yet. I'm sure it may come as we develop more and more business.
Great. And then there were a couple questions about kind of how you, design and implement the workshops, or is it all done by certified presenters? Do you design the workshops, or do you use pre-existing materials? Could you just talk a little bit about how you actually build the workshops?
Sure. That's what took a lot of time, is we actually started from scratch and pulled together or created the workshop topics as well as the materials within the workshop. So it's not a out there researched program that we pulled it off the shelf and we're presenting it. We took a lot of time to develop our own materials when it came to the topics within our Ways to Wealth. Does that answer the question? Was there another piece of that?
No, I think that's great. Someone asked if you'd be willing to license your materials. I assume we should have them email you, or?
Yes. If they want to look at partnership or licensed information, please don't hesitate to contact me. I would love to talk to you more about the program and what that looks like.
Great. And then just two quick last questions. I believe you had said that you had 6 staff who were trained, and someone had just asked about the staff size. Is it 6 full-time staff or 6 full-time staff for the? Okay.
Yes, we have 6 full-time staff, and they are trained and certified with financial coaching. And collectively, and you'll hear a little bit more about this in the video, but collectively, those 6 staff, we have over 100 years experience doing what we do.
Great. And just last, you may have gone over this already, but how many employers have you worked with so far?
We currently have 6 employers, since our launch in June, that we're working with during this quarter for 2018.
Great. That's all the questions. Thank you very much.
Well,
Thank
you
you
so much, Stephanie. Great.
Thank you,
So,
Bruce.
and I just think if there's a way to get from some of your employers some hard data on that shows the value of the program, so that it impacts, staff stability or lost work time or anything like that, that if there's a way to capture something like that, that would be valuable for everybody.
Okay, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, great work.
We can definitely.
Excellent. Good. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. And keep us apprised of how things go, and we'll be very interested in seeing the progress. So let's quickly move out. We're at the end of our call, and just quick reminder, join NHRC and renew if you haven't joined. We actually had a great flood of both new members and renewals at the end of the year, and really appreciate that. This is the support that keeps us going. It does mean a lot, and it also keeps us independent. So thank you very much. It represents about 1/5 of our budget, so very, very valuable. Great. And our next call will be in 2 weeks, and we'll have a whole new raft of topics. I'm working on a couple different topics. We'll see which one pans out, but it should be we'll hope to have a good turnout for it. So hope everybody is managing the weather as best they can. I know people in California have less of the problem than we do, but it's quite a we really appreciate it. And actually had a very good turnout for this call too, even despite the weather. Thanks everybody, and we'll be in touch. Bye.